Let us start with a rather unusual thought experiment, the harmless torturers. Imagine that there are 1,000 torturers, each having their own victim strapped into an electric chair. With the press of a button, they can inflict excruciating pain on each of their victims, and this is exactly what they do. It is easy to see the moral wrongfulness of the action here. Now imagine that there are 1,000 torturers, again with 1,000 victims, but this time the button does not inflict excruciating pain on one specific victim. Rather, if one of the torturers presses the button, all 1,000 victims get an almost imperceptible amount of harm in the form of an electric shock. But because all 1,000 torturers press their own buttons at the same time, all of the victims suffer the same as they did in the first scenario. Each individual torturer inflicts only imperceptible harm on 1,000 victims, so this might not seem terribly bad. But taken together, the harm should be as bad as in the first scenario, right? The philosopher Derek Parfit argues that both cases should be treated alike from a moral perspective. What the 1,000 harmless torturers do in the second case is in no way morally different than in the first case, as the results are exactly the same. Why am I leading this argument with such a weird thought experiment? Let us turn to blame and social media next and circle back to this example at the end. Some of you might remember what happened to Justine Sacco a couple of years ago. The then PR agent went on a plane trip to Africa, and before turning off her phone, she tweeted something racist for the whole world to see, even though she almost certainly did not expect what was coming. And indeed, the whole world saw it. When she arrived, the shitstorm was already in full swing. Her employer had already deleted her name from the website, and she lost her job shortly after.
You're fired.
The internet was busy blaming her for her tweet. Subsequently, Sacco more or less vanished from social media. This video is not about cancel culture.
Up yours, woke moralists. We'll see who cancels who.
It's about how social media transforms how we use blame in social interactions. Most moral philosophers, and probably lay people as well, would say that people deserve blame when they commit moral wrongdoings. Not in every case of moral wrongdoing, and not unlimited blame, but still. If you mess up, people blame you. That's how we play the game of morality. Blame is a negative reactive attitude towards a wrongdoer in response to their wrongdoing. And as it is often a painful response to wrongdoers, moral philosophers want to hear a justification for why it is warranted. And they typically offer two kinds of justifications. First, there's the intrinsic value of blame. If people commit moral mishaps, they deserve to be blamed. Think of the parallel in criminal law. If people break the law, they deserve to be punished. But such blame needs to be proportional. If someone messes up a little bit, we blame the person accordingly. Maybe we give them an annoyed look, turn away from them, or something along these lines. If the wrongdoing is more severe, we adjust the blame. If it turns out that a friend betrayed us, we might get angry, shout, gossip about that friend, and try to make them feel bad, or even stop being friends with them entirely. Second, blame aims to change people's future behavior. We blame them not only because we think they deserve to be put in their place, but because we hope that they will do better in the future. After being blamed, they might just realize that what they did was wrong and change accordingly. A last important thing philosophers emphasize about blame is that some people have a specific standing to express blame. If your partner cheats on you, it is you who is the most appropriate person to express blame. Then maybe also your close friends. But certainly not a random dude in the streets who overheard you talking about this with your friend. So that is roughly what philosophers have to say about blame. It can be intrinsically justified or serve an important function. It has to be proportional, and only people with the right standing should express it. What happens on social media with these norms about blame? I want to make the case that social media makes people violate all of these norms regarding blame. That's not to say that people outside of social media never overdo their blame, or express blame when it is not their place to do so. But there are several reasons to think that social media exacerbates these problems. First, social media makes moral wrongdoing more prevalent. When we go around our daily business, we typically don't encounter too many wrongdoings that we feel like we should intervene with. But on social media, such chances are ubiquitous. We can find someone to blame every hour of the day, and most of these probably are people we never met. Second, social media rewards dunking on people beyond what would be proportional. Blame expressed harshly might even evoke more likes, especially by other people who want to express their dislike. This messes with the proportionality of how people express blame. If they are rewarded for being especially blameful from their own in-group, they have a lot of incentive to do so. This will violate proportionality on an individual level. Another problem that social media exacerbates is that for typical types of wrongdoing, very few people are actually involved. If you see someone throw their trash on the street carelessly, then people who are nearby might express blame. But things on the internet are very different. Remember Justine Sacco and her racist tweet, in which thousands of people were able to express blame directly towards her until she went offline. If people shouldn't be too harsh in their expression of blame, then that also counts towards how many people should express blame. Remember the thought experiment from the beginning. One person that imposes too much harm is clearly morally in the wrong. But what if thousands of people express just a little bit of blame, even though all of it together again amounts to way too much? At some point, if too many people get involved, the blame will be more than what is deserved. The third problem concerns the function of blame. If people are rewarded to express blame very harshly on social media, and if many people do so in a disproportionate manner, then it is unclear whether the wrongdoer will change their attitude in the future. Normally, we all have a decent sense of proportionality, and that's also true for the wrongdoer themselves. They know when they get what they deserve, and so they will also be resentful if what they get is disproportionate, at least on the negative side. If people are mad with those who are overly harsh, they might be less likely to take the correct message in the critique seriously and not change their behavior after all. Let's summarize. I have tried to make the case that social media breaks the morality of everyday interactions. Normally, we have a roughly good sense of how to play the blame game. Of course, also outside of social media, people can sometimes be idiots, but I have tried to explain why things get much worse on social media. And there is actually more to it than I have covered. Anonymity might also add to the overall problem just mentioned. And all of this raises the worry that we might all become harmless torturers. What can be done about it? Researchers tried different strategies, such as trying to overcome echo chambers by showing people tweets that are not from their own bubble, but the success is limited. And of course, social media platforms might have all the right incentives to promote such behavior. But at the very least, knowing about this might be a first step in the right direction. If we all know that we are being tempted to act out morally on social media, we might want to pay close attention and try to counteract these tendencies on our own by reminding ourselves of their influence. This will not do for everyone, as some people probably enjoy the hatred, but I hope that at least some might agree that being harmless torturers is problematic, and maybe knowing this will make us more reluctant to send the tweet that we have in our drafts.